It's Tuesday, April 9th, and let's see what's happening in the world here on Pod TV. We love giving you a sense of what's going on in the world and what's taking place. I know a lot of people were very much excited about the basketball game that took place, and Connecticut repeated as the champion. So they did what only Florida had done sometime back in everything. I'm sure there have been a number of other teams, including UCLA, that had done it back in the day, but it had been a while since it had happened. I think Florida was the last team to repeat and all along those lines, but definitely it does look like definitely Connecticut has repeated. And then on Sunday, South Carolina won. So those are our national champs there in that space and all along those lines. But definitely there's a number of things happening in the world. It's according to the fact that the jury questionnaire in Trump hush money trial has been released by the judge, and Trump is just days from his first criminal trial after the latest legal gambit failed. So definitely it looks like Trump hush money jurors will be asked about QAnon and their, but not their political affiliations. So that is something that is being reported in the news, and it'll be interesting to see what folks have to say about that as well. And it looks like James and Jennifer Crumbley, the parents of a school shooter, are set to be sentenced over there in Michigan. So that is something that is going on as we're having the sentencing for the parents of the Oxford High School shooter. So that is something else that we're seeing in the news. And Benjamin Netanyahu says the date for offensive in Gaza's Rafah has been set. So it does look like that will be out there as well. And NPR is reporting that male fetuses' sex hormones can affect female siblings before they're even born. So that's something that we're seeing in the health world and all along those lines. So it'll be quite interesting to see what goes on in that space. And by the way, it looks like folks were not all that pleased after the game that I mentioned earlier, because they're saying that Dan Hurley and Zach Edey had in a heated exchange during UConn's national championship win over Purdue. So definitely there might have been a heated exchange in that particular situation. And the international courts have ruled that Switzerland violated human rights in its landmark climate case brought by 2,000 women. So that's something else that we're seeing and in the news, along with Trump raging against Graham on abortion in a rare break between those allies. So that's something else that people will be noticing and paying attention to as well. So, like I said, a lot of things are going on in the world, which is always fascinating and all in that space. So, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out in the world court of opinion and just world issues and all in that way. But yes, coming back to the Switzerland situation, Swiss governments are violated human rights by not combating climate change, is what the court has said. So definitely, European nations must protect citizens from climate change impacts, according to what the EU Human Rights Court ruled. So that is something that is going on in that space. And in a UN court, Germany fights allegations of aiding genocide. So Germany slaps down Nicaragua's charge it facilitates genocide in Gaza. So Germany is rejecting allegations that it's facilitating acts of genocide there in Gaza and along those lines. So it'll be interesting to see what folks have to say about that and along that kind of way. Japanese Prime Minister Kishida is to discuss Ukraine and security with Biden. So that's something else that is in the news. And along those lines, U.S. and Japan are also to enhance military cooperation and a joint NASA lunar mission. So that's something else that is being reported in the news as well. And Russians stage a rare protest after record floods in Urals. So definitely that's something that we're seeing as well. So anger boils over some amid record floods in Russia's Urals, and the Russian floods have caused thousands to flee after the dam burst and threatens Orenburg city. So definitely looks like Russians are protesting and demanding help from Putin after the floods and dam failures. And definitely looks like there is the notion that Palestine may be applying for full UN membership. So, UN Security Council has referred Palestinian application to become a full UN member to committee. So definitely that is something going on as the Security Council is reviving Palestinian authorities' hopes of joining the UN. So we'll see if that happens as well. And Turkey is restricting exports to Israel, saying its request to airdrop aid to Gaza was denied. So Turkey is imposing export restrictions on Israel until a Gaza ceasefire. So food aid to Gaza 3 times more likely to be blocked by Israel than other aid, according to UN, as had happened. So definitely that's something going on. And I know sometimes people on the network and other places as well are not thinking there's a lot going on with climate change, but they're saying that March is the 10th straight month to be the hottest on the record, according to scientists. So an extraordinary run of record heat could usher in a long, hot summer, and not in a good way. So the 10th consecutive monthly heat record alarms and confounds climate scientists. So definitely some people are trying to figure out how you can help combat global warming as the planet reaches that 10th consecutive warmest month on record. And Simon Harris has become the youngest ever Irish Prime Minister, and he is pledging a reset. So definitely Dale confirms Simon Harris as Ireland's new leader. So the Irish Parliament has done that vote and everything. So apparently he has got a nickname, TikTok Taoiseach is Ireland's new leader. So I'm thinking that he must be very active on TikTok. So maybe I'll get over there and figure out what his TikTok account is all about. And the UK's Cameron meets Trump ahead of a push for more U.S. Ukraine aid. So Ukraine will lose the war if U.S. fails to approve aid, is what Zelensky is saying. So David Cameron is meeting Donald Trump in Florida ahead of the Blinken talk. So that's something else that we're seeing in the news as well. And as I reported before, Ecuadorian police have stormed the Mexican embassy. So definitely Ecuadorians want an action man, and President Nobia has fulfilled that role. So definitely looks like Georgie Glassi, the former Ecuadorian VP, has long faced corruption accusations and all in that space. So like I said on yesterday, we were also hearing from the Vatican about the notion of what's transgender and all along those lines, because the Vatican says transgender surgeries defy God and surrogacy defies human dignity. So the Vatican is saying that sex change and gender theory are grave threats. So that's just some of the things that we're seeing in the news. Let me get to some U.S. news as well. I didn't mention what was going on with Donald Trump and that meeting and the Crumbly case and all in that way. But let me see what else we've got going on. A prominent Las Vegas attorney and wife were killed by another attorney in a law firm shooting. So that is something that folks will be talking about out there on the West Coast. And years after a college student is stabbed to death, the California man faces a trial in the hate case. So the OC prosecutors will try to prove that Blaze Bernstein's killing was a hate crime. So definitely Blaze Bernstein's accused killer, Samuel Woodward, is set to stand trial. So we'll be seeing how that plays out as well. And apparently Trump is doing some calculus on the abortion issue. And apparently he's also doing some calculus on the Iran's secret smuggling network. So definitely looks like it'll be interesting how this plays out, and also how it plays out in the sense of what's going on within the Republican Party and all along those lines. But it'll definitely be interesting to see how all of this stuff plays out, especially as special counsel Jack Smith is urging the Supreme Court to reject Trump's immunity claims. So that's something else that we're seeing in the news as well. And looks like New Jersey was rattled by 4 more earthquake aftershocks, including one during the solar eclipse. So definitely it looks like the viral shop over in that general area sold $9,800 of New York City earthquake t-shirts in 21 hours. It's run by an ex-JP Morgan Chase banker who quit from burnout. So I guess he was quitting from burnout, but he found another way to make some money, which is selling some merchandise based on the earthquakes and maybe the things around the eclipse, because maybe he had some t-shirts about that as well. I don't know that for a fact, but it'll be interesting if folks plan that out to be the case or not. And the FBI has arrested an Idaho 18-year-old for a violent plot to attack churches on behalf of ISIS, according to the Justice Department. So apparently, an Idaho teen was arrested for allegedly plotting to attack church in name of ISIS. And a woman says God told her to shoot interstate drivers because of the eclipse, according to the Florida police. So yeah, we already had people that were blaming the eclipse on their actions and all along those lines, because the woman claims God directed her to shoot cars on I-10 in Florida during the eclipse. So definitely that is what was going on in that space. And I did go outside briefly, me and one of my neighbors from the I think he's from China, if I remember correctly. He's definitely from an Asian country, and all along those lines. And all we saw is it was definitely a little bit overcast and a little bit darker, and all in that space. But I wouldn't say that it was a major event, and all in that way. Not at least not where I was at in that kind of space and everything. But I'm sure other parts of the world got to see a total eclipse. I was talking to somebody that said that their friends in New York got to see a total eclipse. Like I said, when I came outside, it was overcast, kind of like it is now, but it's the clouds that are making it overcast, where it was the moon and the sun that were doing it yesterday. But yeah, me and one of my neighbors came outside, and I think I even took some pictures and put them on Facebook and everything. But how are you doing? Did you get to see the eclipse? And Sasha's here with me as well.
We got half an eclipse. We got, the moon ate about half of the sun where I'm at.
That's it. I'd say that's about what it did where I was at. Like I said, I did put some pictures up on Facebook and maybe on Instagram. It's one of those social media outlets. But yeah, me and my neighbor upstairs were, because actually I think he even told me at one point, he's like, wow, this is not what I expected. I think he was expecting a little bit more than he got, and all along those lines. So it was quite fascinating, but it did not happen in the way that he was expecting. But I did talk to somebody that had friends in New York, and apparently it got pitch black in New York and everything. So maybe they couldn't do that Carnegie Hall show that you love going to, Nick, since it apparently was pitch black at least for a few minutes there in New York City during the eclipse.
Yeah, well, I don't mind Carnegie Hall. Like my wife and I have been members for years. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with your federal government spending money, $1 million on Carnegie Hall, federal dollars going into it. Now, speaking of which, what the news didn't bring up, we're going to bring up here is another big Biden giveaway. And here it is. $6.6 billion just went out to a Chinese company to develop chips in the United States. It wasn't a loan, it was a grant. What's the difference? A grant is a giveaway. This is a US government giveaway to the chip manufacturing. And they plan on giving away more than 50 billion, maybe $60 billion to companies like this one and Intel and NVIDIA, what Sasha loves. So they can develop chips so people like Jacoby can run his games faster. Now, the claim is, well, we need it for self-defense. The reality, it goes into the gaming business, it goes to Sasha's pocket, and you, Mark, and Rick, and everybody else here are paying for it. It is a bad program. It is more of a government giveaway program. It's the reason why Biden will not be president of the United States next year.
Hey, Nick, I got a question for you.
So you can kiss his little spending butt goodbye.
No, but I got a question for you. Well, one, I think Trump has spent quite a bit as well when he was in office last time.
I don't want Trump to
out to you as well. So definitely, I think that they both do quite a bit of spending. But I think it was on, let's see, today's Tuesday, so it was on Sunday. I ran into a young lady at a hotel bar, because she's a bartender at the hotel bar, and she actually raises longhorns. I think they're not the Texas longhorns, but the other ones as well, and she raises chickens and other animals as well. So I'm pretty sure that she gets some federal money to help her with her farm and all along those lines.
Yeah,
is it my belief, in your opinion, that farmers, but no matter what they're raising, because like I said, she's raising longhorns. I think there's
absolutely got to stop. Now, my grandmother was a multi-millionaire. I mean, seriously, she was, worth maybe 15 million bucks, somewhere in that neighborhood, because we had a lot of farms in Ohio, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, but here's what happened. Number one, she collected Social Security, never paid a dime into it. Okay, number two, she was a multimillionaire. Why is she doing that? Number three, we were getting money from the government for not planting on our farms. Now, do you see the big mistakes that your federal government's making? So I'm been the big beneficiary of this. But let me tell you, Mark, it's wrong today. It's wrong 20 years from now, and it's certainly wrong more today because the government is so far in debt. Now, they did that when the government's sound and solid. But let's take a look at this 6.6 billion. It's not just that; it's going to be over 60 billion dollars being handed out to companies in north of where Rick Rosner lives, rich millionaires and billionaires from Intel, Apple, NVIDIA. They're all going to benefit. The average American, you're going to basically get screwed. The media doesn't even bring it out. It's like we're going to talk about the eclipse. Let me tell you, the eclipse doesn't make a difference. Okay, what does make a difference is your government collapsing in the next half a decade or a decade from now. Now, when your government collapses,
hold on a second.
then you're going to have a serious problem.
Hold on a second, Nick.
You wake up and go,
we're in what's called the Research Triangle Park.
How did this happen?
You know,
How did we let inflation go to 20%?
Nick, we're in what's called the Research Triangle Park.
I'm hoarding my euros while you guys are suffering.
No, hold on a second. We're in what's called the Research Triangle Park area. It's similar to this area that's over there where Rick is. That whole Simeon Valley and all along those lines and everything. But my question is that a number of these companies, I'm imagining, and I could be wrong because I think that they are Canadian, they might even be French Canadian and everything, but I'm imagining that Ron Polnick, GlaxoSmithKline, SAS, and a number of these other companies probably get some money of one sort or another from the government. So are you saying that everybody that gets a government check needs to have the check cut off at this particular point? Because I'm imagining that quite a few of these agencies that you are talking about, including some that are run by multimillionaires.
Absolutely. Cut them off. I mean, the thing is, what you're doing is you're putting the future generation in more and more debt for absolutely nothing. See, and they call it an investment. It's not an investment. An investment would be something like a loan with stated interest coming back. An investment would be like stock in Intel or stock in this Chinese company. But this is where your government is lying to you. They keep calling it an investment. It is not an investment. It is a Biden giveaway program. And the Republicans are going to take this and ram it down the Democrats' throats. And rightfully so, because he could have submitted a balanced budget, Mark. He didn't. He submitted a budget that was 1.7 trillion in the hole more than it is right now. He submitted a budget that increased taxes for the rich. And that part, oddly enough, I agree with. He should do that. But then he's going to put 1 trillion more taxes on rich people and spend another 1.7 trillion on government giveaways. So
hold on a second. Hold on a second, Nick. You say that he's ramming it down people's throats. You say he's ramming it down people's throats, but one of the things that I had heard people complain about for years, and I definitely want to hear from Sasha and Rick as well, is this notion, because yes, there has been always the conversation about welfare and whether people that are poor should get welfare or things along those lines.
This is corporate welfare.
Hold on a second. But there's another conversation that's been part of that, which is this notion of corporate welfare. So definitely a number of people have been getting corporate welfare as well. So my question is,
going to poor people. This is going to rich people. Hello.
That's my question. But corporate welfare. But the Republicans and the Democrats
he's going to have faster video games, so he's happy.
No, a second. Both the Republicans and the Democrats have both given corporate welfare. So my question is, how much of this should we eliminate? Because you're saying eliminate it all and everything. So Jacoby, you've got some friends that work in corporations, as do I, in the Research Triangle Park and everything. So what do you think about this notion that, say, SAS or some of the other ones, Accenture, because they're in this area as
Accenture,
well. Accenture would not be getting any money at all from the government, because I do know that they get some government funding for a number of their scientific programs and other things that they're doing. So what's your notion? They just want to get rid of all money, period, to the corporations as well.
Hey, if the government wants to build housing for poor people, I'm all for it. But giving corporate oligarchs in the United States more money, cut them off. That's not a federal government function. Now, Jatovi's all in favor of it because his video games will go faster, and he's assured that'll happen. He doesn't mind corporate welfare, but I do. I think corporate welfare is wrong now, wrong 20 years from now, and needs to be eliminated. If you want to help poor people, build houses for them, make sure that they have food. That's a federal government function. But giving money to rich millionaires in California, forget it, Rick.
So I'm looking at the federal government spending and revenue. On this chart, the most recent year was 5 trillion in revenue, 6 trillion in spending in 2022. So when you talk about like $1 million here or $1 billion there, it's a tiny chunk of the overall spending and revenue. But if you want to pick on an industry that gets a ton of money, even though they have record profits, look at the oil companies. Worldwide, the oil companies get $1 trillion a year in subsidies, and during the time when they make record profits. And in California, we get reamed by the refiners. We've been getting reamed for decades because California requires a special low smog recipe for our gas, and they use that trick to say, well, to overcharge us by $1 a gallon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I agree with you. The oil industry is another one that's on the take, and this should be part of the news program every day. But we're looking at the eclipse. We're not looking at the fact we're going broke. Let's go look at the basketball team that won, but we're not looking at the fact that the corporations are ripping people off for billions of dollars. No, because that affects everybody that's listening to this. That affects their pocketbook. That's the reason you and your future family will live in poverty, high inflation, smaller houses. There will be more, what do they call it? Food, people that can't eat, what do they call it? When you can't, food insecurity, I guess that's it. And so hellfire and damnation shall take place on this country because you're just throwing your money down the toilet to rich American oligarchs. And why? I don't know.
But Nick, I want to come back to
it should be the first thing on CBS.
But Nick, I want to come back to something else that you said and everything. So are you saying that it is okay? I'm still trying to figure out, as was Giuseppe yesterday, what is allowed to be funded and all along those lines. So we have a program here that deals with a lot of people that are dealing with substance abuse. It's called TROSA, and all along those lines. And they do a lot of work around housing. They do some moving for you. They do a number of other programs that are very good. You can oftentimes find them at the festivals, helping with the cleanup and all along those lines. And of course, there are a number of housing programs as well. Like we have the Durham Rescue Mission and all in that space. So if I'm hearing you correctly, because you said it would be okay if they are dealing with crisis and needing of homes, programs like TROSA
and food, yep.
Programs like Durham Rescue are right to get federal funding.
Yeah, because if it helps people with two basic needs, home and food, that should be a federal function. If you're giving money to the chip companies so Jatovy can run his video games faster, that's not a federal function. Speaking of which, since I picked on Jatovy, because I love picking on Jatovy, he should be able to speak. Which means
just to point out, yes, corporate welfare and actually the actual money that goes to corporations, they're two different things. Corporate welfare is bad. The PPP loans were all mostly corporate welfare, which actually got forgiven, which is crazy because people were upset that the student loans were forgiven, but didn't care that the PPP loans were forgiven. Doesn't make any sense. We just have to rework our priorities because, for example, the CHIPS Act, which does give money to some corporations in terms of bringing those chips back to being built in the U.S., that actually helps in terms of jobs, in terms of actually our independence on creating chips. Because the problem with the chips that went when the Bitcoin craze started and everybody figured out NVIDIA had these chips and everybody was going to use the video cards themselves to do Bitcoin mining. And that became a problem because that took away the chips from the actual cars and so on and so forth. So us building chips here helps out tremendously in terms of the quantity of the amount of chips that are around, plus increases the number of jobs. So there is good spending, like how you complained about, oh, well, we're sitting here looking at space. Well, NASA had to send up 3 rockets to figure out how the communications are disrupted by the actual solar flares and actually the sun itself. So that is something that is very imperative to find out, because if we can figure out ways that our communication lines are not disrupted by actual solar flares and all this other stuff that goes on by the radiation from the sun, it's a big plus in our society that keeps us running. We aren't leaving this planet in any time, so we need to find out all the science stuff that we can do to protect our communication lines. So yes, corporate welfare is bad, but money to corporations is a different thing. I mean, you've got to be able to delineate the two. So yeah, I mean, you've got to get money to do particular things.
Hey, Rick, I saw you.
Okay, we're done hearing from the lobbyists.
Hold on. The world's biggest manufacturer of chips is Taiwan, a nation that China doesn't even consider a nation, and it may try to take over, the way Russia has tried to take Ukraine, in the next few years, in the next decades. And, if something happens if China takes Taiwan, it would be nice to have a chip manufacturing in the U.S. If you want to look at subsidies, you mentioned farm subsidies. Farm subsidies were kind of designed to help small farmers, but small farmers have been wiped out by corporate farming, and they've captured all the subsidies. Factory farming, it's a fairly corrupt system, and small farmers are constantly squeezed by monopolies. For instance, ranchers. There are only 4 major slaughterhouse meat processing companies in the U.S. They set the prices, and they're constantly squeezing small farmers out of business. You need to run horrible factory farms to meet the price targets.
It's good to hear from the corporate lobbyists Rick Rosner and Jatova McDuffie supporting corporate welfare there's a law that could easily be passed and say chips must be manufactured in the U.S. period, the end, and cost us nothing, rather than supporting corporate welfare. I'm shocked to see
it doesn't work that way though.
On the panel,
hold on a second, Nick, because I got a quick question, because I want to bring Sasha into this as well, because you just said something, Jacoby, that kind of threw me off and everything, because you said that NVIDIA is a big supporter of Bitcoin mining, which is cryptocurrency. And I know that Sasha is big into NVIDIA as a source of his investment, but I also know that he's anti-cryptocurrency. So are you telling me that technically he is supporting cryptocurrency by supporting NVIDIA? Because that's what it sounds like you just said.
No, because what it is that people found out that the video cards themselves, the GPU on that card, was able to do better data mining, and it didn't burn up, or it was okay to just easily trade that out. So they just used the NVIDIA chips and found that out. So it's not that NVIDIA was supporting Bitcoin mining. It was just people found out that the GPU that was on the NVIDIA cards and a lot of the other video cards that were out there, that was the best way to use to actually create machines to data mine. So no, NVIDIA is not supporting Bitcoin mining at all. It's just people found out their chips are powerful. So use those chips to...
Well, like I said, I can save $60 billion by just passing a law that says all chips that are used in the United States must be manufactured in the United States. Period. The endo. Okay. Actually, that will save $60 billion. By the way, I will send you guys my $1 million bill for suggesting it.
Actually, that would not work because if you're saying all chips,
Trump will get it to work. What are you talking about?
No, he didn't. Nobody got it to work. So the thing is, nobody. Trump does't even make his shirts.
Trump will get it to work
in the U.S.
Hold on a second. What do you need? What do you need for these things that we're talking about and everything? So don't you need lithium, and don't you need some other things? And I'm not sure that some of these resources that we need are manufactured here in the United States. I think some of them are in other parts of the world, like Africa and a number of other places. Am I correct, Jacoby, that some of the things that we need we can't get from here?
All this talk
All
about
this talk
China
about
is
China
FUBAR
is
because
not
it's
FUBAR.
manufactured internationally.
Say
Is
what?
that what you're saying, Mark?
All-
You're right. It is all FUBAR.
It is
Most
not
of the budget
FUBAR.
that Biden passes is all made up. Climate change guru.
Incorrect.
We got to throw trillions of dollars away because climate change. We got to go into
Incorrect.
space because of climate change. We got to throw more money away to chips, even though they're
Incorrect.
manufactured internationally,
In-
because we have to throw money away because we're Joe Throwaway Money Biden.
Incorrect. Rick,
What do you mean it's incorrect? It's totally correct. Did you read his budget?
So
Come on, Jacoby,
you
read his
can't
budget.
rely
It ain't
on
balanced. Here's his
reelected-
budget. Go on.
a re-elected Donald Trump would be a disaster for American business, among other things. Trump is America's worst businessman. From 1985 through 2015, Trump lost more money than any other American. He's bad at business. He wants to run American business by creating tariffs, which don't work because the tariffs are fairly directly passed on to the consumer. If you put 100% tariff on Japanese cars, then Japanese cars, you're going to pay a ton more in America. He makes bad business decisions.
Well,
he has-
hold on a second. Speaking
Not
of
only
business,
that,
hold on a second.
There's no proof to that.
No,
Well,
hold on a second. Speaking
Yes,
of business
what they-
decisions,
he's a terrible
No,
businessman.
hold
Publicly
on a second.
available.
Speaking of
He's
business
gone bankrupt
decisions-
6 times.
Yeah.
Publicly available
No, his
records
companies have
show
gone
that
bankrupt.
from
Counselor, not
1985
him.
through 1994, Trump lost $1 billion more than any other.
So what? He made $4
here's-
billion on
here's
this.
where the
So what? He
problem-
made $4 billion on this stupid JDT stock.
He didn't. He's
Well,
down
hold
$2
on,
billion
look
in
at
the
his
last
losses, but
week
not
his
on
gains.
this bogus stock deal.
You know,
Let's get
come
this
on,
let's
guys.
get this
Just
correct.
Give it,
okay?
give it up.
He
Salute
did
to
go
Donald
bankrupt
Trump.
over 6 times. Every offshoot besides his hotels died. Trump Steaks, Trump Water, Trump this, Trump that, all that stuff died because it was a poor investment and he didn't know how to run the company, and he went bankrupt over 6 times, just like Rick said. On top
His
of that,
major
No, his
stock-
companies
the
went
stock,
bankrupt.
yeah, the companies that he created went
his
bankrupt.
major Trump's
On top of that,
major-
the stock that he put out there, that DTJ Trump stock,
Yeah.
started at $7 billion. He's already lost $3 billion of that, and it's a yo-yo stock, which actually Sasha
that's called liberal accounting.
it's
Liberal
a
accounting is
yo-yo
the guy
stock,
makes,
which I think
guy
Sasha can
makes
attest
$7
to become the
billion,
worst stocks to
but
invest
he
in.
loses $3
And
billion,
then
and
that
hence
stock
lost
people
$3
are
billion.
actually
not
betting
$4.
against. So therefore, it's actually going to go flatline before he actually finishes
Now,
out.
if he goes flatline, that's a different story. But he
It's
has
gonna
Hold
it.
on a second. Speaking
Okay.
of flatline, and hold on a second. Speaking of flatline and all along those lines, I did have a question for Sasha because it was based on a observation that a friend of mine made, and it's all along those lines. And this might be a Trump ally, depending on who you listen to, because some people say that they are allies, some people say they're not allies. But I was traveling yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, with a friend of mine, and we noticed quite a few Teslas out on the road. So I just wondering about this notion of Tesla being a great stock and all along those lines, because it does seem like they are definitely taking over the road and all along those lines. Because like I said, we were down here in Durham, we noticed more and more Teslas, and there are more and more charging stations and all in that space. So I just wondering your take on Tesla as an investment. You're in the stock space and all in that, because like I said, we just observed that there were quite a few Teslas more than we had seen before.
Well, Tesla is a stock where the old juice was already taken out of it. So today it's becoming just as good stock as many others. And all we have to convince ourselves is there will be even more demand for electric vehicles, which probably is not there because looks like people prefer hybrid cars to electric cars. And if that's the case, all this charging stations, all the Tesla, multiplying production or so on, it may not pay well. And also, Elon Musk is distracted with several other ideas and ventures, and former Twitter, which is now X, and proves to be not the best investment. What he acquired it for $44 billion is now worth about $17 billion. But it's still a better investment than paying $130,000 for 3 seconds sex. I would still prefer Tesla to the other one.
Just to
Toby has something.
because see, this is my problem. I like to read all this other crazy stuff, and it's ironic that you ask about the Tesla stock or talk about the Tesla stock. And Sasha's right about the Tesla stock, because even there's an article right now out on Business Insider talking about Tesla's reign as EV king is fizzling, which is true because there's so many competitors that are coming into the market right now. And then on top of that, it said Tesla stock is down more than 10% in the past year. Elon Musk's net worth has also fallen. And the big reason why Tesla stock is dropping is because Elon Musk, as an egomaniac, decided not to allow Tesla to jump into the AI market, which would have been great for Tesla because they were the leader in the EV market for so long, and they were pushing the batteries and all this other stuff. But then when he did that, that caused a big problem. On top of that, then this is the crazy part, just as Sasha pointed out about Twitter going to X and how Elon thought he was so brilliant about it. Well, you know what? Now he's considering taking X back to Twitter. So he's trying to turn it back to old Twitter.
Well, I'm surprised he can't get his liberals to basically give
He's
him
not a
money
liberal
to
anymore.
support his social media network, since they give him money to
They
create
so
charging
the
stations.
people
They give
Musk
away his
isn't liberal
money
anymore.
to create
He's-
tax credits.
he's not-
So you
he's
have
not liberal anymore.
given
He's
Elon
not-
Musk billions of dollars.
Elon Musk
Billions
spouts
of
a lot
dollars.
of right-wing
Because the
conspiracy
American
theories
public
now.
is stupid.
Elon
know?
Musk spouts off a lot of right-wing conspiracy theories now. And the individual who was head of Twitter when Elon Musk fired him, actually what you can do now, you can actually jump into what looks like old Twitter and actually does really well. It's called Blue Sky. That's another social media platform that came as a response to being fired from Twitter, which actually launched about 2-3 months ago. And it's actually doing really well. Blue Sky is actually pretty good as a social media platform.
Elon Musk is the modern Trump. Elon Musk is on Twitter every day, pumping up right-wing conspiracy theories and whining about people being mean to him because he's conservative now. So,
And isn't there? But Rick, isn't there talk of them joining forces? Because I've heard that they were having meetings and along those lines. So isn't there talk of them joining forces?
I don't know, probably, but like. But like Elon Musk has revealed himself to be kind of an idiot through the whole Twitter thing. I mean, I said Trump was America's worst businessman, but he's probably been overtaken by Musk, whose ego cost him $25 billion in lost value of Twitter.
Yeah, but again, you're always looking at the negative side. You don't look at the $250 billion he made. It's just like saying, well, Trump lost $3 billion. No, he made $4 billion. Then he made 7. He lost 3, and you're going to focus on the lost 3. That is called liberal accounting. He made
liberal
$4
accounting?
billion. Deal with it.
Trump has to wait 6 months.
Liberal accounting.
Trump has to wait
It's called liberal accounting.
Turns on top of things.
Come on! You can't balance your federal budget. How you can balance
You want to
Trump's
know?
budget?
So in terms
Okay.
of the budget itself, you keep talking about the budget and keep talking about the budget.
It's not
But you
balanced.
fail to realize the history
Bring
that
Bill
we
Clinton
built,
back.
our current history. Yes, Clinton balanced the budget. Also, you know who also brought down the budget was Obama. The budget always explodes up under Republican presidents. It's just a fact of life. So when you keep talking about the budget and keep talking about liberal budget,
No, it doesn't always explode.
It's a
Richard
fact.
Nixon, who's a
It is a
Republican,
fact.
was the last one to balance it. Don't use the
It-
word always.
So now
counselor.
it's a fact.
It's a fact
Bush's
that Richard
exploded
Nixon
it.
balanced the budget. and he was a
25%
Republican.
went up under Trump.
Okay. Fact. Richard Nixon balanced the budget. Don't call me a crook. I balanced the budget. I did in 1972, and I'm a Republican.
1972.
that was
current
50
presidents. Didn't I say the current presidents?
52
You're the
years
ones-
ago.
You're only picking
Yeah, I
ones that
know.
lied.
52
No, you
years
said
ago.
the Republicans.
Ooh, how many Republican
the
presidents have been
Republicans.
since Nixon?
The Republicans.
How many Republican presidents have been since?
I have no clue. I don't really care.
How many Democrat presidents have been since Nixon?
I don't know, and I
You
don't
had
care.
Carter, Clinton, and Obama. Now Biden. You had 4.
Okay.
You had the Bushes.
Clinton was the only one to balance it. The rest of them
Not
were
incorrect. Incorrect.
You should fire it.
Clinton, Obama, and Biden have actually brought down the budget.
No, they
Bushes-
brought down the deficit,
brought
but
down
they
the
did not
deficit.
balance it. They did
Both
not balance the
Bushes,
books.
both Bushes and Trump exploded the budget in the deficit.
That is correct. They didn't balance it
So
either.
then you're just agreed to the fact that it was the Republican presidents that have exploded the budget, but the Democrat
No,
presidents
it was both of them. Well, it's
Incorrect.
both of
You
them.
just- you
Why,
just
why,
agreed.
why, are- why are you
Hey,
giving-
hold on a
why
second.
giving
Hold on a
the
second.
Democrats a pass?
Hold on a second. Speaking of which, because we might be heading to and I know we had Gretchen on yesterday who was comparing Trump to
Where's
Abraham
Gretchen?
Lincoln, and we may be having another world war because I did hear, or civil war, because I did hear that there was this notion of certain states seceding, including Texas, because apparently there's a motion for secession and all along those lines. But there is also, we even come to one of your favorite conversations around this student loan handout, because apparently 7 more states are sued to block Biden's student loan handout, and that has now brought it up to 18 states. We got 50 states, so we're almost at half and everything. So are we going to have a civil war based on the student loans and abortion and a number of other things? Because apparently it seems like the states are drawing lines in the sand.
I don't care. I'll be in Spain. What do you say, Rick?
I just wanted to go back to Truth Social, Trump's scam. It's a company valued at $6 billion, or it was last week. I think it's down to $4 billion now on earnings of $4 million, and losses last year of $58 million. The company doesn't generate any revenue, and Trump can't sell any of his holdings for 6 months. So, and it's likely to be worth less than $1 billion in 6 months, maybe way less. Depends on how nutty his followers are in pumping up the stock price beyond what it is worth, based on what every stock should be based on, which is earnings and revenue.
That's all speculative. I mean, Amazon was billions in the hole in the 1990s.
But Trump,
I mean,
Trump
they lost
Social
over $1
doesn't
billion,
do anything.
and people go,
Truth
"Oh, we should
Social
never invest
doesn't.
in Amazon." I was in
There's a
Seattle.
Truth
reason
when
Social
people were
doesn't
saying,
do
Amazon-
anything. It has
was-
no chance of being a growth company because it's just for Trumpy lunatics to.
That's a big following. Trumpy lunatics are huge in this country. I hate to wake up these liberal lunatics, but the Trumpies are
Yeah,
huge.
look at
in
the
the
go
United
to
States of
Truth
America.
Social and see
You're
who
talking
the
almost half the
advertisers
population
on
in the
there.
United States.
Hey,
You know, pumping up that stock.
Nick, you mentioned something earlier about Amazon, and I alluded to it yesterday and everything, but I didn't see a lot of the films. I think I saw like maybe 3, which I usually would see more than that at the Full Frame Festival, which is usually a big documentary and film festival. But one of the films was literally called Union, and it was about the creation of the union at Amazon, because definitely that's one of the things, because even one of the guys, I think his name was Chris Smith or Chris Small, something along those lines. He was the organizer of this union effort, and they got one of the unions of Amazon workers, and they tried to get it in other places as well and everything. But he even credited, he thanks Elon, because he said that one of the reasons that they were able to form the union is because Elon was going up in space. So he was spending a lot of time up in his space ventures and might not have noticed that they were creating a union underneath him and everything. So I just wonder y'all's thoughts about this notion of even Amazon needing unions, because apparently that was something that the workers were complaining about, and they formed a union and are still trying to form unions in other places as well. Because I think it was voted by the workers, and I think it was voted in the movie. It was voted in one place, and I think down in 2 or 3 others. But they are still having that ongoing fight to have unions there on one of these leading corporations, which is Amazon. So your take on this?
Oh, well, we can't talk evil of Amazon because we partner with them. We get paid from Amazon on our bookstore. We can't talk evil of Amazon because also we distribute through Amazon Fire. So we got to pick on somebody who's not paying us off, Mark. So once they pay us off, then we'll be quiet and we'll be like all the other major media in the United States. So find somebody else to pick on. Oh, wait, Tesla isn't paying us right now, so let's go beat them up. So we have to be like major media. If they pay us, then we won't talk evil of them. If they don't pay us, let's rip them a new one. So I have no problem ripping Elon Musk because he hasn't paid his dues to the Pod TV network. So let's rip into Tesla until he pays us. Then we got to be quiet. Then all of a sudden
We got to be quiet with that, so we can rip into We
Yeah.
can rip into Elon, but not Jeff Bezos. Okay.
No, we can't because Jeff Bezos is paying us off right now. So we have to operate like major media in the United States. Once you get paid off, you're quiet. And remember, major media
Either that, or you
off
can
by the
rephrase
federal
either that,
government.
Nick, or you
That's
can
the reason they're
rephrase the
quiet.
question.
They're quiet
So
about all the government
if there's an
giveaways because
effort to
they're
get
getting paid
a
off by the government.
no, but we can also
You know,
rephrase
that's
the
called
question. So
capitalism, baby.
if there's an
Right.
effort to get a union at Tesla, because I think there might be an effort to get a union
There we go. Let's
as
rip.
well.
Let's rip
What is
Tesla
our
apart.
thoughts about unions at major corporations? So we don't have to use Amazon as a specific example, which is what
They should be in every major company except Tesla. Except Amazon because Amazon pays us off. So that's how capitalism works. In other words, and that's how media works. If they pay you off, you keep quiet. If they don't pay you off, rip them apart, and that's it. And so all the people in the government take, and most people are very quiet about it because they go, "Well, I got paid by the government too. I'm not going to talk about that one," you know. So I don't know how many people on this panel got, six-figure paycheck, made over 100 grand last week because your PPP loans were paid off. But let me tell you, a lot of people did, including yours truly. And so next thing I do with the PPP loans, I want to talk about it again. Why? Because I got paid off. So did all corporate America got paid off on those PPP loans, Mark. And who paid for it? The suckers. What are they called? The American liberal lunatics who support that. Like, it's great. Those PPP loans were horrible for America. You know, I mean, it was the worst scam, and all corporate America is being quiet about it. And I'm sitting there going like, wow, I got a big check deposited in my bank account.
This goes to the
I
message.
think I should be quiet about it.
What? The reason that the PPP loans were forgiven is, yes, you're spot on that it was the upper level rich individuals, all this stuff.
Sure.
And who always gets screwed? The middle
people,
lower income. Why? Yeah. Because we message them that these were so desperate, and it's the whole trickle down economics, which has never worked in our history, but it's the whole thought process. So the reason why people fought against the school loans is, who was it for? It was for the middle to lower income individuals. It wasn't for the rich. We fight against that. But we don't fight against the PPP loans.
That is absolutely true. Absolutely
true. If you look at the two boats, remember the two boats that were stranded in the ocean. We didn't care about the poor people that were stuck on the boat that ended up dying. We only cared about this submersible that carried 5 rich people. That's it.
And speaking of rich people and all along those lines,
that's
speaking of rich people and coming back to one of our other favorite topics, because I was going to get back to the eclipse in a minute and everything, but I'm wondering sometimes when these people are sympathizers for any cause and everything, if they really have an understanding of what they are sympathizing for and everything. Because I'm looking at the picture of the young man that was saying that he was going to attack the churches on behalf of ISIS. And, you can't always judge a book by the cover. As I just mentioned yesterday when I ran into the guy from France that I thought was Scottish and everything. But look at this picture. He does not look Arab. He does. And he's in Idaho and everything. But he's saying that he's going to do this attack on the churches and all in that spaces on behalf of ISIS. So I'm wondering if he doesn't caught up in the social media hoopla and he just saw this as a cause to get behind, whether he actually believed in it or not. So I just wanted y'all's take.
It's the same.
He's a mental case. I mean the guy's obviously mentally, he's either schizophrenic or suffering from schizophrenia. I think he's a mental case. At the end of the day, belongs in the mental hospital. But anyway,
it's called stochastic terrorism. If you send out messages of hate, if you do hateful rhetoric, America has 1/3 of a billion people, hundreds of thousands of people are mentally ill, and if they hear enough hate messages, some of them will go off and do like violent shit.
I mean, it's probably the same thing, and maybe Jacoby wants to add to this as well, but it's probably the same thing as the young lady that I also mentioned from Florida that was claiming that God was causing her to go out and shoot up people because of the eclipse. So she was literally saying that she got a message from up high that she was supposed to go out and shoot people on the eclipse.
Yeah, but I mean, that's mostly noise. I mean, yeah, it's bad if you get shot by a crazy person, but we should still be focusing on what we've been talking about this whole hour. So investment in American science and in STEM in the 60s and 70s. In the 70s, the government subsidized 70% of basic science research in America. Now it's 40%. but we get that money back via being technologically superior to the rest of the world. So yeah, I'm in favor of subsidizing education, subsidizing science, subsidizing technology, because unlike Truth Social, there's at least a chance of getting that money back by American science and manufacturing dominating the world.
I hear what you're saying, Rick.
Education actually has the biggest payoff in terms of investments, because exactly what Rick was talking about. Those investments go into, yes, the STEM research where people go to NASA and create half the stuff that we still utilize today, from Kevlar to other particular things that are out there. Education is one of the biggest payoffs, which is one thing that we should always be investing in. But the problem that I think you're talking about, Mark, and what I won't say that these individuals that fall for these things are in the mental. Some of them do, but I don't say it like the people that are flat earthers. Some of them are actually brilliant people. RFK spouts off conspiracies all the time. It's just what people end up falling into and not listening to anything else and forgetting that, okay, well, there's other research that debunks us. We like to get in our silos and only listen to stuff that confirms our beliefs rather than being challenged on things that we believe in. We don't want to hear that we don't want to hear the fact that vaccines do not cause autism. We want to find out that vaccines do. So that's the problem that we fall into. It's the same thing that kid fell into. He could have had some mental issues, that he fell in love with the idea of what ISIS was doing. Which is a problem, because some people can be taken over that way. Heck, and don't get me wrong, this is not all Trump supporters, and there are Trump supporters that believe in some of the things that believe in a lot of things that he does. But there are Trump supporters that treat him like a god. He is a true god to them. So he can do no wrong, no matter even his rape cases or whatever else. He can do no wrong in their eyes. And that's a similar thing and a similar way that people get trapped in this idea.
Yeah, they're similar to Biden supporters. So I can understand that, Jacoby. Biden can do no wrong.
No, let's talk about
that.
Let me bring up RFK. This is something I just found out about RFK Jr., who is just a slime ball. So RFK Jr. kept a sex diary. Well, he kept a whole diary, but a lot of it was sex. In 2001, his diary said he had sexual encounters with 37 women, not his wife. Years later, when the wife found the diary, she hanged herself. This is not a guy who should be president.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Is this a true story?
He ranked all the women as to how far he got with the women from 1 to 10. 10 was full-on sexual intercourse. He didn't have, so of the 37, I think he only banged 16 of them. He made out with another 20 women. He's kind of slimy.
Are you telling me? Are you serious? His wife hung herself because this guy was screwing around with.
Well, there was other stuff. She had lots. They were in the middle of a divorce.
Well, I mean,
I got to check this out. This is beyond the pale.
But that's not too far off from Trump. Remember, Trump slept around on his pregnant wife.
I know, but they don't hang themselves because he gives the girls the golden toilet.
He talks about he wanted to sleep with his daughter. He bragged about walking in on young girls in his pageants. He bragged about sexual assault. He's a slime ball too. I mean, hanging out with
there's a number of slime balls that run for political office on both sides.
That's a requirement, though.
It might be a requirement, but you brought up, Nick, you brought up, and I know we've only got a few minutes to go and everything, but you brought up this issue when we talked about gun control, and I did mention a couple of the gun shootings, that it's not just guns that kill people, and all along those lines. I've heard you say that several times, and apparently there was an incident in Florida where a son literally knocked on his mom's door, and then turned around and stabbed her 70 times, and all in that space, and killed her during this visit because he was, I guess, going to visit his mom. So he was not using a gun; he was using a knife. So you might have made a point in the case that it is not always the guns that are killing people. There's also other weapons that people use.
Do you think this individual is mentally stable, Mark?
He stabbed his mom
kills his
70
mom.
times. He is not
Stabs his
mentally
mom
stable.
71 times. Come on.
Yeah, he stabbed his mom
Here's a
70 times.
solution then. Here's a solution then. Let's get rid of guns and just have knives.
That's what they do
Yeah,
in
that's fine.
England. That's the
I-
deal. In England, the people go on stabbing attacks, but they don't kill anywhere near. I mean, because
That's right.
with a knife, you need to be within 4 feet of something and
That's
reaching
right.
distance.
Yeah, a gun, you can be so far away. Do you know that Spain is 10 times safer than the United States, and Morocco is 4 times safer than the
Everywhere
United States because
is
they have gun
times safer.
control over there. So I can walk down the streets of Barcelona, which I'll be at probably in the next month or so, and I can walk down the streets of Madrid and feel perfectly safe. I walk down the streets of any place in America, and you're not safe. I mean, this place is a hellhole. And it's getting worse.
I mean, I know we're going back in history, but
you're not going to be able to afford policemen because you're going to be spending all your time developing chips so that Jacoby can run his computers faster.
But I know we're going back in history and everything. But where was Jack the Ripper and what was he using? I'm sorry, I'm correct. He was using a knife.
That was 100.
It's such a rare occurrence. Overseas, it's such a rare occurrence. Here, it's every day.
Yep.
I mean, the thing is, the violence in this country is out of control. Your budget is out of control. Spain tried to get their budget out of control, and the EU kicked them in the butt and said, "No, you got."
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I got a question for you. That I'm gonna loop the two. Hold on a second, Nick, because I'm gonna loop the two together and everything. Because you say that the balance is that the budget is out of control, and you say the balance is out of control and everything. Yes. And it is my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jacoby, that in certain cities, including Durham, even though I haven't seen them recently, they would sometimes have police officers on the buses to try to maintain safety. And I'm sure that that's federally and state funded. So is that okay to use that money for safety purposes?
No, but you're not going to have that money, Mark, because it's going to be spent for charging stations for Elon Musk. There will be no money for police. It's charging stations. And also we got to take care of climate. So there's going to be no money for police. It's going to be like I say, a hellhole here in the next 10 years.
Well, I know
there
will
be no
Medicare,
Medicare,
or two,
and there will be no
I don't know if Christina
Security.
wants to jump in as well, but I was going
to
mention it really quickly.
I
was going to mention it really quickly because we get ready to go to Ukraine, Russia, and China. But me and Jacoby in a phone conversation yesterday, we were talking about this notion because I was saying that I saw a hawk yesterday and heard hardly no animals during that 3 o'clock hour when the eclipse was taking place. So apparently the animals were smart enough to know what was going on with the eclipse, and they were much quieter during the eclipse. So that's something that I observed because I did see a hawk that just swooped out of the middle of nowhere. Unfortunately, did not get a picture of that particular animal, but I also noticed that the birds, for the most part, were being very quiet. And there was even an article that said that the animals displayed quiet and unusual behavior during the solar eclipse in the U.S. So they are agreeing with me that apparently the animals were smart enough to know that, hey, this kind of universe is about to do some crazy stuff for at least it won't happen again until 2044, 2045. So we're just going to chill for a minute.
Yeah, hi guys, good morning.
Good morning.
I missed the eclipse too yesterday. I was actually on a movie set in Las Vegas for it, so I was indoor. But I chimed in, I guess, when you guys were talking about gun control and shootings and stuff. There was actually one yesterday in a law office in Las Vegas, which is super tragic. I don't know if you guys heard about it.
Didn't mention that
but it was during a custody case. And I believe that the shooter was actually an attorney himself. He's an older gentleman. But he got up mid-deposition, 7 people in the room, and he killed 2 people across from him and then killed himself.
Wow. Yeah, and I had heard about that. I didn't mention that at the beginning and everything. Just really quickly, as we're going to get on out of here and everything. But Christina, just out of curiosity, because I am a fan of the movies, and I know that Jacoby's a fan of the movies and actually has a sister that's in that field and everything. So what were you doing on the movie set, and what was the movie all about and all along those lines?
So it's The Strangers. It's a horror film. I don't know if you guys saw the original a couple years back, but I'm filming with Lionsgate for the trailers and stuff for their upcoming movies. So we'll be doing that again tomorrow, and they should be premiering in LA and New York May 17th.
So you're doing like some of the promotional work for the movie, like the promotional trailer is what you're shooting?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
like trailers, photo shoots on the strip, and things like that. But super cool. They're gonna have a ton of celebrities, producers, directors, everybody involved here tomorrow.
And you said that was for which movie?
The Strangers.
Okay, because I know that there's another movie that's got strangers that has North Carolina ties, which is Stranger Places, which I think they're doing a salute at the Durham History Museum and everything along those lines, because they're definitely, I think that's the Duffy Brothers, if I remember correctly.
No, that's Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
Yeah,
thank
this
you.
one's completely different. This one's about a couple, I guess they rent an Airbnb and then they're attacked by 3 strangers. But they do big name movies. They've done John Wick, Saw, The Hunger Games. So a bunch of cool different projects they have going on.
Cool. Well, we get out of here. We get ready to bring Sasha his show and everything. So let's get ready to get out of here. And hopefully we'll see you later on, Christina. And we'll also hopefully see you later on this evening, because we've got World Politics later on this evening at 5 p.m. So hopefully we'll see
Yes,
all
thank
of
you
you
guys.
at that
Good to
time.
see you.
Good to see you.
Bye.
Too.